Welcome back, guys. So you asked me for my top 10 WWE, well, again, my videos of WWE, underrated wrestlers. Now, underrated in my book is they should have had a bigger push than what they did, and they should have maybe been more in the main event, maybe more in the title scene than they actually were. So that's my definition of underrated. Obviously, it's multiple definitions of underrated, but that's just the one that I'm going with for this video. So let me know in the comment section who's your top 10 most underrated WWE wrestlers of all time, and let's see how we compare. Number 10 is Raven. So Raven, he was in the hardcore scene, but he was not pushed as much as I think he should have. His character, that tortured soul Raven, was so good. I just think he was kind of coming up in the wrong era, Attitude Era. He was good for that era, but I think, imagine Raven in today's, or not today's, 2016 NXT. Imagine that. Raven in 2016 NXT, feuding with guys like Tommaso Ciampa, feuding with guys like Aleister Black, feuding with guys like Adam Cole. It would have been absolutely brilliant. And let's be real, Raven in the ring, he could go. Number 9 is, he's in my top 4 or 5 big guys of all time. That is Bam Bigelow, the beast from the East. The guy with the flame tattooed head. He was so underrated. WWE misused him so much. He was just used as a mid-card guy. Look at what he did with Lawrence Taylor at WrestleMania. He got a passable match out of an NFL player that's never stepped foot in a ring. Bam Bigelow could go. Also, one of the most agile big guys to ever do it. I think Bam Bigelow, one of the most underrated guys to ever do this. Number 8, in exactly the same vein as Bam Bigelow, we have Vader. These are probably 2 of the most agile big guys ever. I always say the 4 best big guys to ever do this. I'm not talking about guys like Undertaker, Kane, because they're tall, but they're not like big guys. Yokozuna, Andre the Giant, Bam Bigelow, and Vader. The 4 best big guys, in my opinion, of course, to ever do it. Vader, what he did in New Japan. Now, I know my videos are based on WWE, but I'm saying this is why he's underrated. Beating Antonio Inoki, leading to literally a riot. What he did in WCW, what he did all over the world, except for WWE. Why? Because he was a little bit too stiff for Shawn Michaels. So he didn't get the push that he deserved, and I just think that's very unfortunate. I think Vader with the WWE title run or WWF title run back then would have been absolutely brilliant. Number 7 is the gold standard, one of the most athletic guys to ever wrestle, Shelton Benjamin. When you get brought in as one of Team Angle's guys because you have legitimately beat Brock Lesnar in an amateur wrestling match, you know that you've got the credentials. So Shelton Benjamin, he was so incredibly athletic. The stuff he did in Money in the Bank matches, he was basically where Kofi Kingston is the guy in Royal Rumbles, he was the guy in the Money in the Bank matches. He always had the craziest spots because WWE knew he could. Now obviously he had a fair run with the tag titles, with the US title, but I do think Shelton Benjamin deserved a lot more than what he actually got. Number 6 is William Regal. Now this video is coming out the week after King of the Ring, somewhere in the week after the King of the Ring. William Regal is one of my favorite King of the Rings. Now it wasn't the longest run because obviously there was some behind the scenes things that I'm not going to speak about today, but William Regal, the way he slouched in that chair with the crown, he was just that despised, despicable king. But William Regal could legitimately get a good match out of a broom. William Regal is one of the most underrated guys ever. His facial expressions, his comedy, his timing, his wrestling ability, I just think William Regal is one of just the best to ever do it. Number 5 is Dean Malenko, the man of 1,000 holds, and then Chris Jericho, of course, a man of 1,004 holds. Dean Malenko in WWE, he was in the cruiserweight picture, but never as a main card guy because he was small. And this was the land of the giants when WWF only pushed guys that was 6'3" or even bigger. That was the kind of norm you had to be, or maybe at least 6'1" or 6'2". Now, Dean Malenko, imagine him in a world of today where he would feud with guys like AJ Styles, guys like Daniel Bryan. Obviously Daniel Bryan is now in AEW, but imagine him feuding with Daniel Bryan. Imagine him feuding with AJ Styles. Imagine him having a program with Brock Lesnar, because you know Brock Lesnar works with smaller guys. So I do think Dean Malenko deserved a lot more. Number 4 is Goldust. If you gave, similar to The Undertaker, if you gave that gimmick to anyone else, it would have been a failure. Just like if you gave The Undertaker's gimmick to anyone else, it would have been a failure. Goldust lived that gimmick. He was so good with that gimmick. The androgynous character, the movements, everything. He was just so good. And he could work in the ring. When he came to WWE, he originally wanted to be like his character from WCW, just a cowboy, the natural. That's all he wanted to be. But then Vince McMahon came with this character, and he just fully bought in. He didn't want to do it because he's a cowboy. That's, I mean, his dad. He's a cowboy. He didn't want to do it, but he realized if he was going to do it, he was going to do it right. And I think Goldust just deserved so much more. Number 3. And I'm sure he's not on a lot of your lists, but number 3 is TAKA Michinoku. So he also came up in the Attitude Era where small guys was just never pushed the way they were supposed to, and Jerry Lawler, this was just, I think it was the 2000 Royal Rumble where I want to say Gangrel throwing him out of the Royal Rumble where Kai and Tai just kept entering the Royal Rumble, they just kept getting tossed out. He hit his face on that floor hard. He had a major concussion, and Jerry Lawler just had him. Obviously this wasn't Jerry Lawler doing it, but it was replayed and Jerry Lawler just laughed at it and laughed at it and laughed at it. That was just the Attitude Era. But TAKA Michinoku, genuinely, if you were to ask most professional wrestlers, he's one of the best in-ring talents to ever do it. So I do think TAKA Michinoku deserved a lot better. Number 2 is, this was a ruthless aggression beast, Sean O'Haire. So Sean O'Haire, he had that whole, the kind of devil's advocate kind of gimmick where he would try and get you to do things that you weren't necessarily comfortable with his suit and his goatee or this little beard, whatever you want to call it. And he was just so good. He had people eating from the palm of his hands. He was also a big guy that can move. Now, WWE didn't necessarily buy into this gimmick, which I think was very unfortunate, because I do think this devil's advocate, or whatever you want to call this gimmick, I think this gimmick had legs and it could have gotten him so much more over than what he was, and it could have possibly led to a main event run. And number 1, I'm sure he's on most people's number 1s. Obviously I left out so many people, but I tried to do some different ones that you guys would not necessarily have put in yours. But number 1 is Owen Hart. Owen Hart, if you ask most guys out of the Hart family, and this includes Bret Hart, most people would say that he was the most talented, which goes a long way. Now, was he the best on the mic? No. He said, I'm going to kick your leg out of your leg. Was his run cut way too short due to unfortunate tragedy? Yes, absolutely. But could Owen Hart absolutely go? Yes, Owen Hart could absolutely go. And his gimmick as the Black Heart was just so incredibly good. So guys, that was my top 10, and like I said, I tried to put a couple in there that you wouldn't necessarily think about, not the obvious ones. Obviously some of mine are obvious, but I tried to just throw a couple of curveballs in there. But let me know your top 10 and let's compare our lists. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Peace.